I thought it was. Through the chair.
Take it on notice. Yeah.
And on page 1022, could you see a debt financing 4.17? Could you just give a brief overview of what that means? The projected maximum level of debt is in the year of 2017-18. The total loan outstanding. Could you just give? That's got here. Council's current liquidity is projected to be 134 million. Could you just give a brief overview of what all that means, please?
Through the chair, that comment came from page 88 of the annual business plan. So that provides a debt schedule for the whole long-term financial plan. So we have included in the long-term financial plan the work of PLAC and the work of Churchill Road upgrade. So the peak of our debt is in the year of 17-18. So the peak of our debt is in the year of 17-18. It's about 11 million. From then on, it will reduce. So that comments draw from that. So if we were to compare, we have about 134 million worth of equity, and our debt at the peak is 11 million, so equivalent to an average residential house of 480. That is approximately the mortgage.
Director, while you're on the floor, just confirm that 11 includes the North Adelaide Footy Club status.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That 11 includes approximately 1.9 million of Port Adelaide, which is
Port Adelaide,
which is totally recoupable. Yeah.
Another brief question from the CEO. I was actually disappointed, and I don't know whether I probably might have missed it or not, that in your report I didn't see anything about the milk depot, and I thought that would have been part of this report about the financial, the costings of it, what loan payments are, how much we actually owe on it now, and what are we actually going to do. It doesn't say anything in your report here about the milk depot or the plans for the future or anything, whereas other things you put in there about the future, you haven't put anything, and I think that's a very important thing that you have left out, seeing that it did cost us a lot of money. We still are paying interest, or the ratepayers are still paying interest rates on it, and yet it seems to be forgotten.
Yeah,
through there. All I can say is that the item, the milk depot, is a number of years ago that we purchased the depot, and it wasn't an item that I think it needed to be isolated and highlighted in this report. It's been fully reported to Council. Council fully understands the situation, and future considerations will be had in the coming years as to what will be done with it. I don't see that being an integral part of this report.
Any further questions from councillors? In the case, page 120, so 1022, we have the recommendation that we simply note the report. Anybody wish to move that way? Councillor Dixon, wish to speak to it? No. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Lee, wish to speak to it? So any further debate? All those in favour? Against, is carried unanimously. Second item is formal resolutions regarding the annual business plan, and the staff have carefully constructed all of these. There's a colossal amount of work. You'll notice that even one of these numbers is down to the dollar. The recommendations are on page 1026 through to 1028. Despite the careful care and control, there are a couple of things I'd like to draw to your attention that don't affect the recommendation, but they do affect the business plan attached. That is an error on page 158 of the attachment. Right towards the back.
Looks like on the pages.
Looks like that. That much left. That page right at the back. It's simply the rate breakup per suburb name. It's just one of the many analyses that the staff do, and it shows the average residential rate increase in Collinswood will be 23.97%.
Did I move that it stays at that? And everybody else gets a break?
As an error, it should read 5.4%, which is much more in the realm of the other numbers. So it's just an error for you to note. And also, there some missing information on page 163 regarding the number of concession recipients. It doesn't affect the budget. It affects how many people will receive concessions from the state government. The state government haven't yet advised that information. It's due almost any minute now, isn't it? So it should have been with us. It's not with us. It might be here tomorrow. But just so you note that is not there. Having said that, the rest of I'm assured by the staff, the rest of it is calculated fully, been tested on our test database, and is as before you and can be adopted intact, safe in the knowledge that it'll all work. Anybody care to move that way? Councillor Dixon, to speak to.
Look, only to say it's our last budget of this term. I think we've seen again a great improvement in the process. Every year it's a struggle to try and get all the programs we want through, and every year we have to cut out programs individually that we might like. But you can only, put so much rates on the public. It's always a very difficult task, and I don't think there's ever a cent in our budget that's wasted, unnecessary. It really is a struggle every year. I think, again, I'd like to congratulate Ginny and Chris for the great job they've done. It really is a slog to put a budget of this size together. I'm madly in favour, although it's grown. When I first came to council, it was about 4 pages. And I've been at much of the reason it's grown, because I'm a great believer in putting information in the budget so everybody can understand it. It's pointless just having figures there that the accountant can understand when you hear about it. So I've always been in favour of the graphs and the pie charts and everything else that really simplify it. And if people take the time, they can understand their city. And that to me is, and I know very few people read it after all that, but if they want to, they can very simply look at it and work out what's happening in their city. And so much so, occasionally when I get complaints, I ask people if they've bothered to read it. And it's not much of an argument for them if they just haven't even bothered to take a look, but just complain. Some people, as we all know, think the only thing they get done for them is their bin picked up. They forget the roads and the paths and everything else. So as a budget document, I really, and I've looked at most council budget documents, I really think our stands up incredibly well. But the commitment that Jenny and Chris put in every year, I think is just horrible. And I certainly appreciate what they did. This being our last budget, it's for another mob next year to take on the mantle. We won't all be back, I'm sure. And I'm enjoying working with us. As to
Councillor, here. Councillor, second. Councillor Green, will you speak to it?
Yes, I will, and I'll probably just echo the sentiments of the I think what we've delivered in this process has been a well-balanced budget, and a budget that's going to deliver some projects for Prospect, which at certain times in the budget process I don't think we really thought was going to be possible. So I think that's a fantastic outcome for us as a council to deliver those. I just want to mention probably 2 things. One is the community consultation process. This year we tried something a little bit different, and I think while from a pure numbers point of view, it wasn't high numbers of people that engaged in that process, but it was a good process to do something different. And I think just to acknowledge staff in that process as well, that Ginny and her staff certainly put a thinking cap on about how to do things a bit differently. So I just want to say thank you for that, and also for the work that goes behind such a big document and such a laborious process. We argue about projects worth very little amounts of money because it's all very important to us, and I think that's a sign of a good, robust debate. I think that's been really useful. I just wanted to mention point 4.15, just as a matter of clarity more than anything else. So 4.15 is on page 1025. Dot point 1, average residential rates increasing with 4.5% or approximately $1,600 per annum. Just to be very, very clear, the rate increase isn't $1,600 per annum. That doesn't relate to the 4.5%, just in case anyone wants to read that in any other way other than what it was intended. So I think that's just worth pointing out.
Second sentence, clarifying.
I'll just put that on the record. The other thing I just want to mention, and I'm going to refer to a comment actually in the previous paper that we just considered, and just going to find it, because I think it relates also to our business plan and also to our financial situation. The CEO's report said council is able to fund the long-term financial plan in its current form. And it talks about that while we have some operating deficits, it's projected that the economic benefit of the future prospect will outweigh the current deficit. I think that's a really important point to make. That we are making some hard decisions, but we're making some hard decisions for the long-term gain. I think that's sometimes it's not in debate, and sometimes it's hard to talk to people about what that really means. But this is setting Prospect up. Councillor Dixon's right, there's going to be a group of 8 people plus a mayor sitting at the table in 3 or 4 months' time, inheriting our budget and inheriting our decisions. And I would like to reflect on the fact that we've made the right decisions for City Prospect. I think this puts us in a good position to do that. So just again, thank you very much to Jimmy and Chris and the staff who have spent so much time answering lots of questions from elected members. Well done. And I'm really hopeful that all councillors around the table support the budget tonight.
Any further debate? Councillor Priest.
Yeah, look, I can't see where I can actually vote for this budget. We're spending so much money on a state government asset. We're spending $560,000 of ratepayers' money on a state government asset this year, plus capital works of about $590,000. This money, I had a letter, I had a resident ring me saying that they've got a letter 17 years ago from council saying that their road needed desperately doing 17 years ago. And here we are spending money on a state government asset to underground power lines again on Prospect Road, spending money again on Prospect Road. And he's been waiting 17 years for his road to be done, his footpaths. And he's still at the level there 17 years ago. I have other residents say, where's my road? Where's my footpath? 20 years waiting. Again, you're spending money on a state government asset to underground power lines that belong to, not to us, but to the state government. We're propping up a state government asset because of their financial mismanagement over 12 years. And yet this council is asking the ratepayers to spend money on a state government asset. I can't believe it. We're spending money on a state government asset, say $590,000, $560,000 per plus the capital works of $590,000 if we have to do to upgrade the road when we do the undergrounding of the power lines. Over 4 years, it's a total cost of $6 million to this council. If we do it over 4 years, $6 million. That means,
You have the floor, Councillor.
Thank you very much. These are the figures I got from Jimmy. Over 4 years, $6 million. Correct? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I can't vote for this budget. How many trees could this $590,000 plus the plaque of $560,000, how many roads and how many footpaths could this actually build in Prospect? It could bring our footpaths and roads and trees forward by a couple of years, I suspect. So therefore, I can't vote for this budget. I mean, we awarded the CEO, us as a council, 4.9% pay rise this year. And yet the CPI was at 2.2%. Why? I don't know. So,
Councillor Priest has the floor, and unfortunately you can say whatever you like under the Act, unless you defame somebody or...
Well, I'm only going on what I was told when I spoke to the Director of Corporate Services. Okay? So, CPI was at 2.7, we awarded CEO 4.9%. I can only go on figures of what the Director of Corporate Services gives me. Sorry about that. Councillors, am I right? We injected again?
I'm asking you a question.
So therefore I can't vote for this budget in its current form, knowing that there are so many people who want their roads fixed, their footpaths done, or trees that need planting.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further debate? Councillor Lee? To ask a question?
Through the Chair, could the Director of Corporate Services clarify those figures?
Through the Chair, 1.6 is the tax commitment for over the 3 years, and the remaining is the capital work associated with the upgrade of Prospect Road.
On our assets.
And that's our asset.
Which we'd have to do anyway.
Can I ask you a question, Councillor?
Just the other question about the 4.9% pay rise for the CEO.
CEO, is that a correct figure?
Yeah, I understand it's 4%. My record.
Sorry,
Thank you, CEO. Director?
that's the figure you didn't have. I wasn't sure.
So, sorry, Director, just clarifying the 4.9 did not come from you?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, CEO. And if there's a further question about that in more detail, then Councillors can ask for that outside of the meeting. Councillor Lee, you have a follow-up question?
No question. Just like to talk.
Sorry, carry on.
Just to echo the compliments to staff on how hard they've worked on the budget. Really great job, guys. It's really great working with you. It has been really great working with you as a team. But also, fellow councillors, I didn't think you'd be brave. I really didn't think that you would stick your necks out for borrowing more money to do Plec and to further Churchill Road. So thank you very much for doing that for the city. And
Haven't voted yet.
very much for having that conversation in budget deliberations and being brave and having that conversation. So that's all I wanted to say, and I will support this budget. It's a very good budget, and as Councillor Brett said, it sets Prospect up for the future, and that is what we always need to be looking for, not 4-year terms, not for now. We need to be setting the city up for the future, and I think this budget goes towards that.
Go to the vote. Right.
Yes, I think there's no doubt about it. We go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and it's been months of doing that, and I don't think there's hardly anything in there that somebody, elected member, hasn't questioned, tried to pin down, so go back and could you please rework this and do that and whatever. As far as the Plec goes, I remember sitting at the workshop, and you know, I just wouldn't want to borrow money for the sake of borrowing money and just doing a project. This one lined up on, I think if we're talking about lining up on basically 2 moons there, the fact that it was the cheapest we will ever be able to do anything like that, and it's we are well within our capacity to pay, and also the extremely cheap money to borrow. You can't, you know, we couldn't do it any other rate, possibly any other time. We have to do it when the timing is right. And I think if anybody has ever remembered what Prospect Road looked like before Plec, and also I think what persuaded me was I didn't really understand that it's a safety issue as well. If we keep those old poles in there, it's putting the new poles in means that they're much safer as far as motorists. It seems to be the motor cars that want to crash into it most. I don't have any hesitation this time for supporting that. We will always be having roads and footpaths to do. That is the nature of the beast of being a small council like Prospect, with not much of a manufacturing or a commercial base upon which we are actually trying to grow and turn around. So, you know, we'll always be having somebody, even if we did all the footpaths and all the roads and went over and beyond what we're supposed to actually put into capital assets, because that's a trap as well, as we know with depreciation and capitalisation. So I think we do above what we're, you know, if there's a line to be drawn, what we do with our roads and our footpaths. I think, you know, no sooner than we'll finish, like, you know, if you've been on for, say, 30 years on a council, and by the time the first one was done 30 years ago, you'll be catching up with it and ready to do it again, you know. So it's just a fact of life. Okay, so, and I think we've worked very hard as a group, both elected members and our staff. So I think the general public out there has absolutely no idea how all the legislation that is thrust upon us in local government and all those every, you know, thing there that we're more accountable than well, possibly state government, dare I say. There's so much analysis and so much legislation that we have to abide by. I commend this to everybody.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. I just once again echo all council have said, whether we agree or not. I think we've got to respect someone's opinion when they have the floor. But I'll be supporting the budget tonight. I think the staff, the elected members, have done, I think, a pretty good job. So I think 6 or 7 workshops to get where we are, but I think I mentioned when Deb was leaving that I think some of the debate that we had around this budget was some of the best And the presentations that Chris and Ginny have been able to give us on particular items and ways it's going to affect and just the information aspect, I think, has helped us to have that debate. So I thank you, Chad. And overall, I think as council agreed, it does set the prospect up to look at some projects which, you know, Lisa, you know, we've put our neck out the line for tough conditions at the moment. There's a flat market out there. There's the confidence in the marketplace is certainly down 17-year low according to Bank USA's confidence research last week. So for us to go out and sort of lead the way, I think it's a good thing for a council of our size, and still keep our rates at quite low compared to some of our neighbouring councils. So I just want to thank all our fellow councils for having the open debate and not being afraid to stand up and actually say that they are passionate about, whether one agrees on it or not. I think it's great. And I'll be going to council.
Thank you, Councillor. Briefly from the Chair, Councillor Breach, you have
Can I just ask a brief question? Sorry?
have spoken.
Just a brief question.
Allow a brief question.
Thank you. Thank you to the Chair. I just noticed that in 1026 and number 5, we've got the NRM levy put in there. Why don't we have the waste management levy put in here as well?
As I understand, we're not permitted to nominate that on our bills, but Director, are we able to list any other state or federal government taxes or levies on our invoices to residents?
Through the Chair, the reason why the waste levy you're talking about, because we have not declared it as a separate rate. So it is not on our, it will not be listed separately on our bills. That is the reason.
Okay, quite right. So it's within our rate, whereas the NRM levy comes to us and goes straight out the door to somebody else. Yeah, follow-up question, Councillor?
Yeah, just on that. So what happens with that levy then? We don't keep it.
So the NRM levy?
No, we don't keep that obviously, but the waste levy, we don't keep it. So why isn't that shown on here as a separate item?
Well, I think we'll take that on notice. Councillor, I've got a mind to show how our level of grants from the state is going down, and our federal grants is going down on every
With that too.
on every invoice to the residents. But I understand our invoice is prescribed in legislation quite clearly by the state government, so that limits our ability to do that. Just in speaking from the Chair, I bumped into Councillor Mitchell, former Councillor Mitchell, the other day at the footy, and he was delighted to hear that we were getting on with the next stage of the undergrounding the power lines on Prospect Road. It's a favourite project of his. In fact, we had to pull him in line a few years ago, saying we just can't afford to do it, along with other things. About I think 4 or 5 years ago from memory, he kept bringing it back up. We put it into the long-term financial plan to give him some kind of sense of future vision that accorded with his, and it was in for next financial year. He's delighted that it's still in, and in fact we've pulled it forward by 1 year. What he didn't fully understand was that we had been offered 3 stages, not 1, 3 stages by FLEC out of their $10 million per year, and that's an extraordinary promise. They're very keen on finishing Prospect Road, and our bid is the last 3 sections to do. And that's the equivalent of them offering our citizens a $3.6 million grant. Now, if you have a look at that in terms of how closely it's coming together, we could say that's the largest ever grant this council has received in its history. And I'm the one that says, well, where do I sign? How do we do that? How do we get that money here? And I think that's what we as a council have worked out, that we'd be wise to jump on that bandwagon. They're very keen to help get Prospect Road fully underground and beautified at the same time. And why wouldn't we want to do that for our ratepayers? And I fully support that. Well, it's been said, there's been lots of discussion about this budget. We don't all agree on everything. In fact, I've never seen that in my 11 years on council. Every time we do a budget, it's a compromise. Every time we do a budget, we whip and beat the staff into shape, and I'm delighted that the last few years we've had a different approach from the administration to really go back to zero-based budgeting, and I hope that continues. And also that the discussion we had at the last meeting that in response to the community consultation, they're asking us some serious questions that the staff have undertaken to look forward and do some detailed analysis on our budget structure outside of the budget period. So not crammed full of budget bits, but before that, to do an efficiency and economy audit or some other benchmarking across councils just to make sure that we're on track. If we're not in line with other councils, that we seriously look at that and work out what we have to do to make sure we're giving our ratepayers the best bang for buck as possible. I think we're either there or we're pretty close, but I'm always open to a review, and I'm glad that the staff are as well. Just in closing, the investment that was made on Prospect Road, painful as it was, difficult to execute as it was, is yielding dividends. There's no doubt about that. The vacancy rate out here is still the lowest vacancy rate in any main street in the metropolitan area. And if you think that's wrong, find someone who will refute it, or go and drive down the other ones. There are many other main streets that are full, that are being backfilled by tenants who aren't paying the full rates just to make the shop fronts full. It's not the case here. In fact, I think at last count we have one vacant tenancy between Coles and Challenge Hi-Fi or Baba Musa, and that's extraordinary. One across the road was snapped up within a week of it coming onto the market. There's only one there that's still occupied, but advertising a replacement. That's a direct result of our investment in that strip. We now have applications coming in on the basis of what we've done. One down by St Helens Park, and of course the cinema's $18 million investment there. I think that's the largest investment on Prospect Road for, well, it could be in the history of the city in terms of its number, but it's certainly a very sizable investment, and it will be the tallest building in the history of the city if it gets up. And of course that is because we've not just invested in the public realm, but we've changed the zoning rules, and that project came through as soon as those two things were sorted out. There are properties for sale north of us awaiting beautification on the road, and I think once we send a signal that we are going to do that, those properties will move much quicker and we'll see more substantial development. Thank you, CEO. And to note that the investment on Churchill Road, we've seen the amount of activity happening down there with new townhouses popping up in a few places, and also the activity on 252 Churchill Road. So that's great for us because it gets rid of more vacant sites on that site there, and of course we'll get some commercial income off that site. And you don't have to think back terribly far to remember the derelict rail yard site there with leftover equipment pushed out in the corner, our corner, earning us 0 rates. And now we are pulling into the hundreds of thousands of that site, and will continue to grow in its income stream. And that is as a result of the investment program, just like we're about to decide to do on Prospect Road and the southern end of Churchill Road. So thank you for the support people have expressed. Again to me, Councillor Dixon, do you wish to sum up? No. That concludes debate. All those in favour? Against? Ms. Karen.
I'll call for a division.
Oh, please do. All those against funding footpaths and vaccinations of children, please stand.
Churchill Road.
I thought that was a cheap shot actually, David.
Well, what was, yeah. I enjoyed it. Thank you. It's still carried. Okay, that concludes the business tonight. The meeting is closed. Take a short break and resume for a workshop at grade 5 to 7. See you. Yes. Thank you very much.
Right.